Greetings once again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Silverstone for round 5 of ROOZ Season 4. Now, I'll let you watch this pole position lap as I recount the previous rounds so far this season. It started off in Sepang. I was absent, didn't actually know that the league existed by this point, so obviously 0 points for me in the opening round, but I made my debut in Australia, Albert Park, for the second round. Quite annoying actually that I had to miss out on Sepang, one of my favourite tracks, and instead debut one of my least favourite tracks and possibly weakest tracks in Albert Park. Surprisingly to myself at least, I was able to record pole position and a maiden victory. We went to Mexico for 2 races, 25% each, and the combined points, half points for the second race, due to the fact it was a reverse grid, would decide the overall points. And in that round, once again I grabbed pole, won the first race, and secured enough points in the second race to gain maximum points from round 3. Then we moved on to Canada in the retro round in Ferraris from 1995. Didn't really suit my style, and I ended up 3rd from I think 4th on the grid. That was of course won by Razor, and Sepang was won by Kart Dude. So that's what's happened so far, and now we're here for 100% race. That's a lot of laps of Silverstone. We're going to start it from pole with this lap here, which wasn't actually too great, but it looked it based on the rest of the leaderboard. I'm not sure what happened to everyone else. Stig with a good excuse on softs. I'm guessing some people had some issues in that qualifying session. Talking of issues, that Red Bull did not get off the line at all. Knuckles falls out of P3, at least back to, I say, 4th or 5th. We actually went really deep into turn 3. Wasn't expecting the car to feel so heavy. Not done any 100% races for a long time. The car certainly felt quite heavy, and this was a section of the track where I was quite vulnerable through. The last right-hander through those sweepers, Jono was planted, I wasn't. I was understeering like a ferry, and that gave him opportunities after opportunities down that hanger straight with DRS. However, I eventually got used to it, started to pull away, not on consecutive laps actually, those fastest laps, but they did come at a good time. However, towards the end of my stint on supers obviously, which faded earlier than his softs, he would catch back up. I think the gap peaked at around 2.7, not quite 3 seconds. So once again, I had to be defending down hanger straight. Everywhere else on the lap was fairly even, if not actually in my favour. But this particular right-hander here, the end of that section, was quite troublesome, and each time he would come out right on my rear wing. Thankfully for me, I was running a little bit less downforce. Maybe that was contributing to the fact that he was quite a lot quicker through there. However, down the straight, I was able to fend him off, at least for a few laps while the grip was just about there. Lap 18 now, and once again, the understeer, unreal through there. Very close behind is the Toro Rosso driver, I believe a multiple-time champion in this series. Must be hungry for his first victory of the season. Probably used to having quite a few by this point. There was just space for a car. He's still actually on my left. Not sure if he stayed fully on the track or not, but either way, there's no move. A little bit deep, but it didn't matter because the next turn is to the right and there's really no way through on the left. Lap 19 now, and finally the tyre differential proved too much.
You need to pit in this lap.
Lessons can be learned in overtaking here. He tries to keep me as pinned to the right hand side of the track as possible, and that was what allowed him to sweep around the outside. Great move. If you're watching, kids, that's how you make an overtake around the outside of the Stowe. I considered pitting that lap, but I wanted to see just how close I could stay, and actually he made a little error through the last turn, defending towards turn 1. It was never going to be an option to pass through there, so I let off. I put the soft tyre on,
Go now.
planning to go to the end. I knew there was rain forecast though, and we had a gap to break down to. It was 29, the fastest lap that became 24 seconds. It was actually 17 before he pitted, which was at the end of lap 30. So a huge undercut based on those tyres, which I was setting fastest laps on. That would have been a corner cut usually, but with these rules, not quite. We had 12 seconds up our sleeve. When he came out of the pits, obviously he was on super soft, so he caught up before this rain struck. It was pretty much time to pit at the end of this lap. However, there was some traffic to get past in the meantime. Thank you very much for getting out of the way. It wasn't his fault that this happened. I was a little bit further to the right than I anticipated, and the grip caught me out. That was my only warning of the race, I believe. It didn't cost me too much time though, and I ended up pitting at the end of the lap.
Go.
for some intermediates. That would take me to the end. Stig, of course, did catch up. It was about 8 tenths in the middle sector each lap, and then the rest of the lap we were fairly even. I noted that, and I was pretty comfortable letting that happen each lap, making sure I didn't spin out, because I knew I had the margin to allow for that gap to decrease to the point where he was pretty much a second behind, but I had under control. P1 for the third time this season. We're heading towards a potential championship here. I've been Jacko. I look forward to Monaco in 1 week's time.